Do you eat grass-fed beef?
I almost eat grass-fed beef exclusively, as much as I possibly can.
Do you prefer grass-fed for? Oh crap! I can't even. Over the food in the store.
Yes, I definitely prefer grass-fed beef over beef purchased like at a store like a Meyer.
How'd you come to figure out that grass-fed was better than what you bought before?
The way I figured out that grass-fed beef was better was I stumbled across a website actually of a local farm that was selling grass-fed beef and started just reading about it and got really interested in it. Went out and visited the farm, got to meet the farmer himself, and they told me about the health benefits of grass-fed beef, and I was pretty blown away between the difference of that and the kind of beef you eat regularly from a store.
Does your family survive on organics?
I wouldn't say we survive on it. We still go to Firehouse Subs and eat junk. We're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I think our everybody in our family makes our best effort to try to eat as local as we can. Food's locally grown, and that's what we try to do.
What can you say about the difference in expenses?
I look at it this way. I will say that purchasing grass-fed beef, animals that are allowed to free range and live a normal life, is more expensive because it costs more to take care of an animal in that way. On the other hand, I look at the future benefits of it. Eating healthfully now is going to enrich my life later. So is that worth the money? To me, it is.
Well, on Sunday, me and him and a couple other guys, we got around to cooking grass-fed beef.
Mm-hmm. On
We
the
did
grill.
it.
We cooked it. Tasted delicious.
It was great.
It was good. Tasted actually better than the real thing.
Yeah.
What do you think tastes better?
I will say that cooking grass-fed beef is an art. I mean, you have to cook it a lot slower than normal beef. I've been told that by the farmer. You really have to take a lot more care with your heat. It's better to cook it a lot slower because it can get tough. I have found that. I don't eat as much steak and stuff like that as I used to use because it's tricky to cook. But there's no doubt about the taste. I think the taste is, I would have to say, better. And I think mentally, knowing that if I'm going to eat an animal, I'm eating an animal that was able to enjoy its life up until the time that they killed it, as opposed to living in a pen your entire life and being, put growth hormones in there and all kinds of antibiotics to keep the animal healthy, make it grow faster. It's all unnatural. They don't feed them grass, which is, a cow's normal stomach is set up to eat grass, but they feed the cows grain and stuff like that, which isn't normal. So they force the animal to eat. It'd be like forcing you to eat something that you just would never normally eat, let's say rocks. It's not right. And so when I'm eating that meat, I feel better, and I think it makes it taste better, quite frankly.
All right. Have you ever tried grass-fed bison?
No, I've eaten buffalo before, but I don't think it was grass-fed. But I liked it. It's just not something that you can find around here. There's not as far as I know, unless you go up north in Michigan, there's nowhere to buy buffalo meat. Plus, I like to buy things as local as I can. The farm I go get my meat from is in Ravenna, and they bring the beef every week to the farmer's market at the Saturday market downtown. So, when I go there, I see these people every week. They know me. We can have a conversation. It's not like going in Meyer and buying. You don't know where it came from. It could come from the other side of the country. I know that the farm 30 miles from here is where these animals were raised. And I think that's a very cool thing. And it also helps the economy as well, because when I give that farmer money, he's likely going to spend that money in this community. You give your money to this beef was raised somewhere else in some other state, it's not going to get spent back in Michigan again. So it's good for the economy as well.
All right, we talked about the company that deals the food that we buy from the store. Could you tell us a lot about that?
What do you mean?
You know how we were talking about the company that does I think we talked about the butchering and the distributing of the food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you tell us more? tell the video about it.
I think, if I hear you right, you're saying you want me to describe like the process of normally processing beef versus processing beef from a grass-fed farm? Is that what you're kind of saying?
Yeah.
I mean, the main differences are, one, ethical treatment of the animal from birth on, you know. If you go to a factory farm, they never see the light of day. They live inside a massive warehouse. There's no windows. It reeks. It stinks horribly. They are bred for one purpose, and that's just to make them as fat as they can and raise them as fast as they can. And they get very sick in that environment because, like I said before, they feed them foods that aren't natural. And a grass-fed farm, you pull up to the farm and the animals are roaming freely, eating the normal food that they're supposed to eat, you know. And then the manure that they create goes back into the earth, and that's healthy for the soil, which that's not happening in these huge factory farms either. Is they take all the manure and they ship it off and they dump it in these big lakes and stuff like this, and the whole community stinks surrounding the area, like it just reeks. It's not a helpful way to do disposing of all this manure. And therefore, the area smells, you know, and it's not healthy either. All this fumes from this stuff gets leaked out. So just the way they handle an animal there. And then when it goes to processing, the animals that I eat are moved a minimal amount of miles. They put them on trucks, of course. They don't actually do the butchering there. But they take them a short distance only, which is very traumatic for the animals. It's almost like they know this is going to happen. So he takes them to a local butcher, which is just down the road from his farm, and so the animals aren't traveling hundreds of miles in this truck and wondering what the flip is going on because it's so unnatural. And they, you know, I mean, to kill an animal, you have to kill an animal. There's no really any great way to do that, but I've seen videos on YouTube of processing plants where they do mass quantities, and it's horrific. I mean, it's horrifying to watch. You can hardly even watch it. It's disgusting. And I think the people who do that after a while, it messes with your head. It must be difficult to do. And these are people that really care about the animals where I go. So I guess I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
All
right, you talked about the guy that you buy it from,
Mm-hmm.
and they know you, so could you give us a little information about the guy? Like
his name is Nathan Creswick. He owns a farm called Creswick Farms. And is that what you guys ate?
Yeah.
Creswick
Yeah.
beef?
Yeah,
there's a
that's
few
right.
people around here, but he's the most local. He's the closest. I've met him a number of times. You can either go out to the farm where they have like a farm store right there, and they have all these freezers full of all the meat, and you can buy it there. You'll see him walking around doing this thing out there, or you can go to the Saturday market, and then he has people who bring the beef to the market in these huge trucks that are frozen, refrigerated trucks. And I mean, he's a really super cool guy. He's down to earth. He's constantly reading and learning about how to do this well. It's a family tradition. It goes back several generations in his family. And, you know, he cares about the farm. He cares about the earth on the farm. He cares about the animals' welfare. I also get all my eggs from them. I don't just eat grass-fed beef, but I also eat all local produce as much as I can. And I also eat his chickens. They're free-range chickens. They don't shoot them up with stuff and all this. You know, they just get to roam freely and eat the normal food they're supposed to eat. I get that from him. So yeah, he's an awesome guy.
How many people do you know that do what as you do?
It's actually becoming a massive thing in this country. If you go online and look Google search paleo. It's kind of the diet that is a popular diet. It's not really a diet, it's a lifestyle. It's like a low carb thing. They're learning more and more that wheat is really hard on your body, and so is sugar. And so advocates of the paleo diet, you think of it like this, it's like eating more like a caveman. So if you go back to caveman times, they ate a lot of vegetables, fruits, and meats. And that's kind of what this is like. You avoid breads, you avoid sugars, you avoid anything processed as much as possible. Like you don't go buy something in a box at a store that's got 40 ingredients, 10 of which you can't even pronounce. You eat stuff like a butternut squash, which came out of the earth. I buy it from an Amish farmer. You take it home, you cut it in half, you throw it in the oven, you put some butter and a little brown sugar or something on there, and it tastes awesome. And you put on the side a little nice piece of grass-fed beef, You do it up on the grill, maybe some sweet potatoes, cut them up, make some sweet potato fries. You're good.
All right. When cooking organics in general, like vegetables, fruits, how is it more difficult?
Well, you don't take something out of a box like normal. You know, we did this for years at my house. We would go to the store, we'd buy some kind of boxed food that was really quick and easy to throw together. You throw it in the oven, you take it out, and you can eat it. Boom, you're done. So it takes longer to cook like this, but I've discovered love of cooking. I never really cared about cooking before. Now I really enjoy creating like a killer stew or a killer chili. You know, I'll like search for recipes. I actually started the Pinterest page, which is embarrassing because not many men do. But I actually started one. It's got all my recipes logged on there. So every Saturday morning I get up, I go through there. I'm like, what am I going to cook this week? And it's become like a hobby. You know, I enjoy cooking it. I enjoy spending a Saturday morning. I put on some jazz. I'll spend 2 hours making a killer chili. That to me is really rewarding. So it's a lot more time consuming. For sure, you have to go to the market, you have to buy the food, you have to prepare, plan what you're going to eat. It doesn't last as long. You know, if you buy organic food, not necessarily meat, 'cause you can freeze it, but if you buy organic fruits and vegetables, they don't last that long because they're not covered with pesticides. They last about a week. So you have to really kind of know what you're going to cook. Like I said, Monday I'm going to do this, Tuesday I'm going to do this, Wednesday I'm going to do this. And doing that, I just don't waste as much food because in the beginning I wasted a lot of food. So, you know, it's more time consuming, but in a way, more fun.
How does eating organics change the way your body felt?
Wow. It's crazy. I have so much more energy. For a while I lost a lot of weight. I lost approximately 70 pounds the first 2 years that I started doing this. Really within the first year I lost most of it. I never exercised once. Not that I don't advocate it, because I probably would have been better off had I exercised on top of it, but I'm super busy. So just eating like this, I dropped a ton of weight. I also started drinking pop because that's full of chemicals, sugar. And so, you know, I've gained some of that back because I'm not perfect anymore. I cheat, you know, I don't consistently do this because I'm just so busy. I just can't always. And I put some bread back into my life. I'm now eating locally made bread from a baker up in northern Michigan that brings it to market every week. So, you know, eating carbs makes me kind of chunky. So, but I still have a ton of energy. I feel amazing. And I notice, like when I go to Firehouse and eat a sub, and then I go home an hour later, I'm exhausted. I'm super tired. I might even just chill out and take a nap. And then I wake up and I feel like, I almost feel drugged. It's a weird thing. Now that I've done this for so long, I can feel the difference when I add unhealthy foods back into my diet. Although I do it because I love the taste. Won't lie. But,
It's all right.
you know, nobody's perfect, right? I mean, if you do
Right.
it too much, I don't think I could stick with it as much as I do. So, but when I cheat now, I can feel a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times I feel more tired. You know, when I get up in the morning and just have a couple eggs, I do this almost every morning, and I get the first hour, I got 15 times more energy as most kids sitting in that room, and I can carry that on all day. So I rarely get sick. I've been sick once in the last like 2 years, and that's about it. So I feel like I've been a lot healthier. I hope in the future it's going to help my health then too.
All right, is there any final thoughts or things that you think my class should know?
Start young. You know, it's cool to go to a market and see the same farmer every day, every week, and get to know that person as a person. You know, I buy all my vegetables from this Amish guy who uses no chemicals on any of his food. And when I go there every week, he knows me, I know him, and that's cool to me. And then he goes home to his farm in Michigan, not that far away, and spends his money there. And you know, I do really believe that this way of living is going to get more and more popular. I think that as our, you know, Monsanto and these massive companies are controlling food in the world, that people are going to start to have a backlash to that and say, I don't want to eat that kind of food. I don't want to eat things full of chemicals. You know, I don't feel well. And you need to think about this because you can help your economy, you can help your body, and it's fun. It's a beautiful thing to go to the market and just see all the stuff, and you run into people and people talk. You go to Meijer, you get in your cart and you start walking around. Everybody's in a hurry. Really, you don't see a lot of people talking to each other. Then you go to the farmer's market, and it's crazy how cool it is. Everybody's talking to each other, and you know, it's like, it's homespun, it's local, and that's where it's at, in my opinion. So I hope it's good for Muskegon too. So think about doing it.
Hello, I'm Nathan Kreswick. I'm the CEEIEIO of Kreswick Farms, and I'm here to help with your English project.
How did you come to know that the food grown without enhancements were better for you?
We haven't got enough time for this conversation, so we're going to take the short run on this thing. How I came to find out from personal experience. A number of years ago, I started having an effect at grocery store meat and eggs. What I came down to doing a lot of research along the way is that the stuff that we would raise here ourselves on the farm as a hobby, where I didn't get sick on that. And going into the research side of things, I started looking at what the animals were fed, antibiotics were put into the feed, what they were given as growth hormones and such like that, and had the realization that that stuff was different from what we were growing here as a hobby on the farm. And this is sort of way beyond or before when the whole movement started. We're kind of ahead of the curve at that point. So one thing leads to another. Basically, 20 chickens start laying eggs and such like this, become 200, which become 2,000, which kind of just keep multiplying. And a handful of cows become many hundred, and pigs become like 1,000, and such like that. So it's one of these things that I never really intended on getting into it, going into it from the front end, but I backed into like everything else. And it's basically a hobby that grew into a business in its own right that way. It's been a lot of learning through the years. We've put a lot of time into animal genetics for animals that actually do well on grass. A lot of people out there just buy a cow and throw it on the grass and it fails and they fail and they have no idea what happened. We spent a lot of years researching, learning. There's an advantage to having our own slaughterhouse / processing shop. Back up, we no longer slaughter anymore, we just do secondary processing. But we can see when an animal comes off the field, what was it like, what does it look like, we start cutting, oh, we probably should have done something differently, or hey, that worked out great, or this animal's genetics aren't as good as that style, so we make sure we kind of lean towards this type of animal, not this type of animal. And it's been a long process that way. And it's an ever learning process. There's days when I think that we've got everything just nailed, we're 100% on it, the next day I wake up, nowhere near that.
Recently, I've heard that when you give animals genetically enhanced food, it can make humans peak earlier. They hit puberty in 4th and 3rd grade. Do you have anything?
I'm 48 years old. I notice that kids seem to be coming of age sooner in life, shall I say, putting it in a delicate way. And a lot of that has to do, in my opinion, is the growth hormones in food, genetically modified organisms, such like that. There's a lot of things I think are adding to the whole mix that way. So the answer to your improv question is yes, I do believe that there's a connection that way. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I'm an engineer by training, but that's what my observation is that way.
Where can anyone obtain grass-fed or organic foods?
Well, the marketing side of me, a salesperson, he's going to say right here at Kreswick Farms, obviously. You can do internet searches. Be careful out there. There are people that are just starting out, haven't really a lot of experience in what they're doing. So you're learning from some of the trial and error yourself that way. But listen, the easiest thing is internet search is probably your best thing. Go local. I don't recommend, in general, buying stuff from a long distance away. A, you don't really know where it came from. B, there's an awful lot of transportation and trucking charges that get added onto something that you gotta love it by spending money on that one.
What makes organics better than the food from the store?
Okay. You can buy organic food in the store. I have a little bit of hesitation on a lot of organics these days because of the commercial cooperative. The large companies out there have done a lot of infiltration in the organic business, and in my mind have kind of watered down organic in general. I'm a believer in organic trends, standards, and such like this, but I also say be very, very careful when you buy things. Make sure you know what it is. My best thing I tell people to buy local from a farmer, especially an organic farmer. Talk to them about their practices and such like this. But anyway, back to your original question. I believe the nutrient density of organic foods, true organic foods, is better than commercial foods that way.
All right, this is a question about the preparing of the grass-fed beef.
Okay.
When cooking grass-fed meat, what is the difference in difficulty?
Okay. We'll start with ground beef. Ground beef is technically a little bit leaner. We run ours from every portion of the cow, so it's a whole animal type ground beef. But you wouldn't treat that much differently. Roasts, I always tend to make sure you keep them moist. Plenty of vegetables and such like that in a crock pot. I mean, that's the easiest way to do it, but always keep them moist, especially when you're dealing with like a round roast or a rump roast. Things roast out the front of the animal, say chuck roast, are a little less picky that way. Now, when it comes to steaks, moisture again is the key. Our grass-fed beef, grass-fed fat, is an omega-3 fatty acid versus a grain-fed, which is an omega-6 fatty acid. Omega-6 fatty acid is a really bright white fat, and it will survive on a grill. If you put it on the grill right on the flames of hell to it, it will survive. Then you'll spit and spatter and stuff like that. Grass-fed or omega-3 fats will volatilize off, basically evaporate off. So the two things that we always recommend that people do when they're cooking them: number one, do not put them over direct flame. Number two, put something on top of them, like butter, olive oil, something like that, to seal in the juices a little more that way. So like I said, the omega-3 fatty acids will tend to volatilize off into the atmosphere that way. So that's the big difference that way. Some steaks, like round steak and New York strip, which have a little less connective tissue to them, can get tough real easy. I do not recommend cooking above medium rare even, that aspect that way.
How long have you been eating this way?
In reality, probably since the 70s, which I know was way before you guys were even born. High class, before you all been born. But at that time, we ate both either way. Went to the store, went to the restaurant, whatever else. Nowadays, it's basically, we'll go to the store and see things like, yeah, that's kind of neat, but don't buy it. No sense in it anyways. Then we eat all our own meat, stuff like that here.
How does buying from farmers help the community?
Well, number one, it keeps your dollars local. If you're buying from a large box store, you don't know where it came in from. It could have came in from California, Mexico, New Zealand, Argentina, whatever. It could have came from Grand Rapids area too, or West Michigan. But when you're buying from the farmer directly, the money goes directly to the farmer, and it stays within the community where it starts going out. The farmer may help his neighbor out with this or that or whatnot, or on that aspect that way. So it keeps it out and all local, not leaving the town.
This question is, if you do, you do. If you don't, doesn't matter. But do you know anything about the Monsanto?
Monsanto?
Yeah.
Very, 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 very large company. They are very heavily invested in called genetically modified organisms, crops, and such like this. This is their business. They are really adamant about it. And there's been a lot of talk in public circles of whether it's right or wrong. I'm not going to give an opinion on it. I think everybody needs to make their own choice on genetically modified organisms, whether they're good for situations or not. There's arguments both ways. Both of them are logical. What is right, I don't know that way, honestly.
What is the difference between grass-fed beef and grass-finished beef?
Okay, difference between grass-fed beef and grass-finished beef. Technically, Grass-finished beef can be within the last 90 to 110 days of its life. Prior to that, it can be fed anything they want to feed. It's grass-finished. Grass-fed beef is grass-fed throughout its entire lifespan. From the day it starts, it weans off the mother onto pastures and stuff like that, all the way through the day it reaches the end part. That's grass-fed, in my mind. Now, there are people that are going to say, well, I'm going to throw corn out with it, still got grass-fed with it too. There's a lot of variations to that. So, know the person you're buying it from, know the farmer. If you find it in the stores or anything else, ask the people in the store, and if you don't like the answer you get, ask more questions. Even ask to see where they get it from. Call the company you're getting it from. I have seen things out there that have been kind of not true to form. So, that's the latest basics that way. But those are the two descriptions of those two terms, and they're both stretched, shall I say, for definition.
All right, any last thoughts that you think our class should know?
Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to come out here and talking to us. What's the instructor's name?
Sure. Todd Conrad.
What is it?
Todd Conrad.
Mr. Conrad, these guys are doing a fine job. Make sure they get a good grade. They're working hard at it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.